Welcome to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast, your weekly news roundup of hunting, fishing, trapping, and conservation stories from around the Gem State. Hosted by Fish and Game's Public Information Specialist, Connor J. Lease.
And welcome back to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast. We hope you enjoyed last week's discussion with co-host TJ Ross about what it's like managing Idaho's fish in the Clearwater and Panhandle regions. We got some news to catch up on, though, today, including spring black bear draw results, community challenge grants, and public input on Fish and Game's 2025 strategic plan process. First, if you're on the fence about steelheading, here's 100,000 reasons to hit the rivers this year. Anglers looking to get an early start on their fishing season and catch one of Idaho's most prized fish should take advantage of spring steelhead fishing. It's an exciting time because at this time, we're seeing the best steelhead return since 2015, with more than 100,000 fish crossing Lower Granite Dam in 2024. Those fish move into headwaters during late winter and early spring, which concentrates them into the upper tributaries of the Clearwater and Salmon rivers. Anglers key in on those areas for the opportunity to catch these large, ocean-going fish. But it all starts with where to find them. In the Clearwater area, the South Fork Clearwater River and the Main Stem Clearwater River in Kuski and Kamei areas, Main Clearwater River near Dworshak Hatchery, and the North Fork Clearwater River are all good choices depending on the type of fishing you enjoy. Boaters can catch a lot of fish out of the main river, and bank anglers can also do well in the tributaries. Fishing also gets good as soon as water temperatures start to warm near Riggins on the Salmon and Little Salmon rivers, as well as the Snake River near Hells Canyon Dam. In the upper Salmon River near the town of Salmon, the deadwater ice jam breaking up is the signal that fishing will start picking up, which typically happens in late February or early March. When the ice jam breaks up, those fish start pouring through and heading all the way to the Stanley area. And according to a recent story by Brent Beller, the deadwater ice jam broke free as of Monday, March 3rd. Now, warmer weather gets the fish moving and more active, but you really want those Goldilocks kind of conditions. Gently warming water can be your friend, but too warm or rainy weather can turn rivers into muddy torrents and make steelhead fishing difficult. Anglers can see river flows thanks to the U.S. Geological Survey, which has gauging stations throughout Idaho. By watching the weather and the stream flows, anglers can track in real time what's happening with the rivers. Steelhead typically like water with a little color, so think like emerald green, but not too low and clear or too muddy. The weather can change quickly in late winter and early spring, so fishing can change dramatically from day to day. Steelhead fishing also tends to improve when a river recedes after a big pulse of runoff. Good steelhead anglers, or lucky ones, can catch fish in almost any conditions, but using those guidelines will help you improve your chances of catching fish and knowing when to time your trips. With steelhead congregating in smaller headwaters and tributaries, it can often mean crowding, and I don't mean of the fish variety. In some cases, crowds of anglers gives steelhead fishing a social atmosphere, but it can also lead to intense competition for prime fishing spots, especially on the weekends. That's not intended to wave you off, but go into it with realistic expectations. Fishing midweek or later in the day on weekends might help if you don't like crowds. Don't feel like you have to stand shoulder to shoulder with other anglers just to catch steelhead. There's more than 100 miles of river between Stanley and Salmon, and more downstream from Salmon, and most of it is road accessible. To further fine-tune your knowledge, steelhead anglers can check out our harvest reports to see how the fishing is going. Catch rates at under 10 hours per fish is good, and under 5 hours per fish is excellent. Another option is to check the hatchery returns, which helps you track when fish start arriving at hatcheries, which can also be an indicator of how many remain in the river nearby. Remember, it's better to be a little early than a little late because fish are migrating. So if you wait too long, most of them may already have swam past where you want to fish. A phone call to Fish and Game regional offices or local tackle shops can also provide anglers with useful and timely information. By doing just a little bit of homework and watching the weather, you can hit it when the rivers are in good shape and the fish are in. Remember those dates because there's a fair to good chance you will find similar conditions around those dates in future years. And one final note, Idaho Fish and Game's electronic salmon and steelhead permits are available at all vendors or through the Go Outdoors Idaho mobile app. We've talked about e-tagging immensely here on the Hook and Bulletin, so this should not come as much of a surprise. E-tagging also allows anglers to buy an electronic salmon or steelhead permit with their smartphone and start fishing right away. E-tagging allows salmon or steelhead anglers to validate their permits electronically. Anglers can use the app while out of cell service, in low service areas, and while the device is on airplane mode. Remember, if you buy a paper tag, you're ineligible for e-tagging, so download from the app or ask for an e-tag at vendors when you buy your tag. To learn more, read Roger Phillips' story or swim on over to our e-tagging webpage. All right, let's hit it with some bear news. Spring black bear controlled hunt results are now available at gooutdoorsidaho.com. Email notifications will be sent to those who provided an email address on their profile. Others can check results at any licensed vendor or Fish and Game regional office. It is the applicant's responsibility to see if they were responsible in the drawing and purchase their tag. Successful applicants can buy the controlled hunt tag through their gooutdoorsidaho.com customer account at any Fish and Game regional office, at any licensed vendor, or by calling 1-800-554-8685. Tags purchased online or over the phone will include an additional convenience fee and will be mailed to the mailing address on file. But that's not all. Effective January 1st, anyone hunting black bears in Idaho must show proof that they've passed a bear identification test to help them differentiate between grizzly bears and black bears. Both grizzly bears and black bears reside in portions of Idaho, so it is important to know their physical differences. Grizzlies are federally protected in Idaho, so there is no hunting season on them. There are several physical features that can help you tell the difference between grizzly bears and black bears. Now, no one feature alone should be used to determine which species of bear it is. Rather, a combination of features is most useful. Color and size are not reliable indicators. Because spotting bears in the wild can be challenging, especially for grizzlies, reviewing different bear photos of different ages and color types will help hunters see the differences and similarities between these two species. These training materials will highlight each characteristic one by one. Note that the test will not include educational materials. After successfully completing the free bear identification test, a hunter will be assigned a certificate number that hunters must provide when in the field. Fish and Game reminds hunters to save a digital copy of the completed certificate and store the certificate number on their gooutdoorsidaho.com customer account for safekeeping. And that's all there is to it. All right, Fish and Game wants your input on its 2025 strategic plan update. Here's what to know and how to get involved. We're going to be updating our strategic plan in 2025 and want to hear from Idahoans who are interested in shaping wildlife management in the state. Known as the Compass, Fish and Game's strategic plan was last updated in 2015. Much has changed in Idaho since then, so it's important for those who value wildlife to provide input on how Fish and Game can fulfill its mission in the future. And if you're listening to the Hook and Bulletin, hopefully that means you. Our mission is to preserve, protect, perpetuate, and manage all of Idaho's wildlife. The strategic plan is basically the roadmap to ensure we are achieving that mission. It charts the broad strategies and tactics our department will employ to sustain Idaho's wildlife and meet the demand for hunting, fishing, and trapping. Remember, the plan was last updated in 2015, so our director, Jim Fredericks, decided the plan was due for an update to ensure the strategies used will continue to fulfill our mission. Fish and Game staff also want to have a conversation with the public to make sure our strategies meet the needs of Idahoans in 2025 and beyond. Residents wanting to participate can attend one of 8 public meetings in March and April in each region of the state. Hit the link below to see the full list of dates and times and locations. If you're unable to attend an in-person meeting, there is also an online portal with the same overview information and feedback opportunities that go live on March 11th. Participants will be asked to provide input on 4 external priority areas identified during the initial scoping phase of the project, which include hunter, angler, trapper, and wildlife viewer satisfaction, habitat loss, invasive species and disease, and predator management. Participants may also provide input on other priorities that they feel we should focus our efforts. All comments received will be used to shape the 2025 Fish and Game Strategic Plan update. Draft versions of the update will be available for review and public comment prior to being considered for approval by the Fish and Game Commission. More information on the old 2015 Strategic Plan can be found on the Strategic Plan webpage, link in the description. Okay, that is all the major news for this week. Let's hit the rapid fire bulletin. The Idaho Fish and Game Commission's Community Challenge Grant Program is open for applications March 1st through April 15th. The Commission Community Challenge Grant Program consists of 2 different awards. 1, regional grants, which are projects that benefit a local or regional scale, are eligible for up to $10,000 made available through each Fish and Game region. Or 2, statewide grants, which are projects that benefit the state or multiple regions, which are eligible for up to $30,000 made available for the entire state. Hit the link in the description to learn more or apply. As anglers make plans to fish the South Fork Clearwater River for steelhead, they should be aware that camping on certain state-owned property is prohibited. This law applies to Idaho Transportation Department property, including many of the pull-offs along the South Fork Clearwater River. This means if somebody is camping on one of ITD's pullouts or right-of-ways along the South Fork of the Clearwater River, they could be cited for an infraction. Once again, due to warm temperatures, rain, and muddy conditions, the Stonebreaker Lane Access Yes parking area at Lake Cascade is closed until further notice. Fish and Game staff have decided to close the Stonebreaker parking lot to reduce the risk of damage to private property while the ground is soft and wet. Fish and Game staff will continue to assess and will reopen the lot when freezing temperatures return and conditions at the parking area improve. Okay, that's it for this week's stories. It's time for our question of the week. All right, this week's question comes to us from Sarah B. Sarah says she's an angler and wants to know what's the best way to fish for steelhead. Now, there's no one quote-unquote best method for steelhead fishing, and what's best is highly dependent on the water that's being fished, the time of year, water temperature and flows, weather, etc. Steelhead anglers use a variety of techniques such as plunking, bobber and jigging, fly fishing, side planer, back trolling, and side drifting. Since steelhead typically are not feeding as they migrate towards spawning grounds, anglers like to use a variety of lures, beads, yarn, and or flies that stimulate the steelhead to bite. Sometimes steelhead are pretty aggressive and will take about anything put in front of them, and other times it requires just a little bit more finesse. Many anglers believe that using bait or scent will increase the likelihood that a steelhead will bite. Popular baits include shrimp, sand shrimp, and cured eggs, but there are about as many different types of scents that anglers use as you can imagine. Hope this helps. That's all the news we have for this week. Thanks for putting an ear to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin. If there's something on your mind or if you got a question related to Fish and Game matters, feel free to drop us a line at podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Again, that's podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you next week.